All right, so today we are building each individual part of our brake roller kit. It's a combo kit. It consists of 4 different things: the brake itself, the roller itself, the extra bearing roller attachment, and the frame that these would mount to if you want to have the full combo as we built it in version 1 on the channel. So we're going to build the entire thing today, but I wanted to show you guys what the separate kits look like because they will now be on the site. If you're only interested in the brake, or you're only interested in the roller, or maybe you've got the roller already and you want our little pipe roller attachment, or maybe you've got both and you want to build the frame itself. So we were breaking it down in this kit today. And this is version 2. So anything that we've learned on making the original version, we've upgraded and updated these separate pieces. So this right here is the brake kit. This is what you'll expect to get in the mail if you get it from us. And the reason why we've designed these this way is so that you can be like a compact, capable finger brake at home. It's something that I always wanted for a long time when I was, not able to afford a nice finger brake. And I think this is kind of thinking of the people in the garage that don't have a ton of space, that want to be able to rebuild their cars, do patch panels, that sort of thing. This is kind of all you would need. That's who I'm keeping in mind when we're designing these kits. So this will come with all the CNC cut pieces, as well as all of the material that it's more difficult to find in your hometown if you're not in a big city. So DOM tubing, drawn over mandrel tubing. We have these cut in small quantities for you guys so that you can make the hinges, like cold rolled round bar. These are the hinges for the kit itself. They're 1.25 inch DOM, 1/4 inch wall. They fit the round bar perfectly. So we've designed everything in that way that it's going to be easy for you guys to put together. And then the pieces that you will need to get, we've designed so that they're easy to get pieces of material, like our 4x6 angle iron, our flat bar, that sort of stuff that you'll have to purchase yourself to finish the project, right? The springs, we've got perfect little springs for this. We've got, our little spring pins, everything that you'll need. That is the brake itself. Here's the roller. It comes with the CNC cut plates, and big shout out to our friend Gene, who's RIP Gene Winfield. He's the originator of the pipe roller, as far as I can tell. And basically what he did is he took an 8-inch piece of pipe, 4-inch piece of pipe, 2-inch piece of pipe, and he welded them with a bit of a slot in between them all so that you could slip a piece of sheet metal in there and pull your sheet metal over to make your transmission tunnel, to make your drive shaft tunnel, to make cool rolls in sheet metal. That's what we're inspired by when we built this kit, and we just kind of added a little bit of our own flair on top of that, which basically allows you to position them. So the big pipe would be in the center, and then we've got these indexable holes in them. They're every 30 degrees, so 12 holes in there. And what we thought is that now with this type of a pipe roller, you could position the pipe at whatever area makes it the most sense for you to be able to bend your piece around. Like maybe you're trying to do a certain shape that you can't do with just stationary pieces of pipe, right? The other thing that this allows us to do is put a bolt in the center of each one of these and attach our bearing roller attachment that will help pull that nice, smooth bend around, or that form around the pipe. So it comes with, again, things that are not super easy for everybody to get in small quantity, which are raw hardware. Not every place is going to sell you raw hardware. And the reason why we do that is because we've all welded nuts before that are zinc coated. Zinc is very unhealthy for you. It's made up of tiny sea urchin molecules. Like picture a sea urchin. Those are the little molecules that you see wisping off of things that are zinc coated or galvanized. Those go into your lungs, very, very bad. So raw hardware, it comes with the kit. We're going to assemble this today and show you each and every little step. Now, the next spot, or the next part that we make is this. This is the roller attachment that attaches to the 3-pipe roller. And what it allows us to do is add a couple of bearings and a piece of tube that will pull your material around said pipe. So we've got 3 different positions here so that you can use, you know, whatever hole against this plate and pull. This is where the bearing would go. Imagine another piece of pipe here with a bolt in between, and you're able to pull your piece of sheet metal around the large one. You could also set it up to pull it around the smallest one. You could set it up to pull it around the medium-sized one. And we've separated it all in case you're interested in one and not the other. And then of course we've got the stand kit, which allows it to flip, which allows you to be having the brake on the same stand as the roller, and you pull a bolt, let it flip around, and it saves you space, as well as caster plates so that it can roll around your shop and be put away easy. That's it. japhandskustoms.com if you want any of this stuff, but let's get into building it right now. We're gonna go step by step, and this is the instructional video for you guys that have purchased the kit. So watching this and building your own at home should be easy if we've done our job right. So let's get into building the brake first. We'll go over to the welding bench. We'll have a look at the material that it takes to build the brake and start putting it together. I'll show you how easy it is. All right, so this is the material that you have to buy yourself, right? We've got a 6-inch wide by 4-inch piece of angle iron, 3/8 wall thickness, and that needs to be 40 inches long, okay? So one piece at that, and then I believe this is 3 feet long, and this is 3x5 angle iron. This is common stuff, your local welding shop. If you don't have in your hometown a metal supplier, go to the welding shop and ask those guys to order you the pieces. This is some 4-inch flat bar by 1/2 inch. We use cold rolled for this piece, but you don't have to use cold rolled. You could just use hot rolled, it would be fine. I like cold rolled just because it's a little bit sharper on the edges, and it's easy for us to get. This is some 3/8 by 1/4 flat bar. What the purpose of this one is for boxing or triangulating our top plate. So we'll be welding that on soon. This 4-inch piece here, it actually sits like this. And then this, let's see here. I'll just stick that like that just to hold it. This is the top blade, okay? That's the top blade to the mender here. That's why we've chosen these sizes, is it fits perfect. Now, I'm gonna have to make the bottom edge of this blade flat. That's one of the things that we're gonna have to do, is grind the bottom edge. We're gonna have to notch out a couple areas for our hinges and basically just prep these pieces so that we can start assembling and welding everything together. So first thing I'm gonna do, make a 45-degree bevel on the bottom edge of this and do a couple of notches so that we can start welding them up. Okay, something I want to do here for my 45-degree angle is I'd like to mark it on the side edge. So what I'll do is I'll make a mark right here. And that's kind of where it starts to round out. This has like a round end on it. That's what I'm trying to cut off. So I put that mark there. I'll measure down. How far is that? And then I'll make a line all the way across one end to the other. Now I've got my line. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna slice with a zip cut all the way through this and try and stay above that line. And then I'll take my grinder with either a rock, when I say a rock, like a grinding disc, doesn't have to be a special one. And then I'll just flatten it off with whatever I've got, like a sanding pad. It's got to be as good as you can make it here. You want it to be pretty flat. The nicer you make this edge, the better. So take your time, throw your earbuds in, listen to some music, and build your bender. Okay, not saying this is a necessary step, but I just tried it, works pretty good. Just if you really want to get her super straight, just use a file this is like a body file, and it seems to be working really well to keep it nice and flat. Like I got it really close within like pieces of paper thin gaps with just the straight edge. And that's really all you need. Like you don't need to go crazier than that. But I just figured why not? So I think I got this at a garage sale. And yeah, works pretty good. So now that it's nice and straight, this piece is prepped. We don't have to do anything else to this other than use our 3" by 1/4" inch piece of flat bar to box this in. Just straightens it up a little bit. And then we're gonna go ahead and cut our slices in it for our fingers. And that's something that you can decide whether or not you really want to do. I think it can be handy at certain distances if you're making a box and you want to be able to fold all 4 sides. The other option is that you can always just use the edge and fold all 3 sides on one edge, and then when you go to break the last flange or whatever, you just bend it a little bit, finish your break, and then hand finish. I'll show you guys that later once it's all together. But what I would like to do is just give ourselves like a few different spacings of cuts in here so that when it's convenient, we can get a 4-sided box break, which is the whole purpose of a finger break. All right, so I'm putting on this 3" by 1/4 piece of flat bar. I would just like to see that this is at that same 45-degree angle so that this ends up being flat. I'm careful not to over weld this because I don't want it to bend or put a bow into our piece. So I'm just gonna mark out some neat stitches here. We're not gonna do very long ones. It doesn't have to be incredibly welded. It doesn't actually add that much strength. Just the box shape itself is gonna do a lot for it. Okay, so if you want to add the fingers onto this, you're going to want to just space them in as many combinations for sizes as you can. Let's go 1 inch, 2 1/4. Let's go 4. We will go 8, 8 3/4, 14. We'll go 20, 25 1/4. Trying to hit some quarters, some halves, some 3/4, and some whole numbers as well. 30 1/4, 33 1/2. And then we're left with 36 1/2. Or sorry, 36. Yeah, 36. And you can kind of do this however you want to. I just think this gives you the most kind of odds to hit that box. So I'm just gonna cut those slices down to here. Gives us like a solid inch depth of flange potentially to be able to make that box or that pan. Okay, next step is we're gonna need those two pieces, these two pieces, and these two pieces. These are going to be the end caps of our piece that we just made, the blade. They do have bend lines in them, and I'm gonna show you exactly what those are for. This one, to begin with, needs to be bent to 90 degrees to cap off this end. This will also be the bolt with the spring that lifts and lowers this blade. This piece is actually a gusset that runs across the back, bends at a 45-degree angle, and that will touch our base angle iron, which is that big piece there. That's going to be the pivot point for lifting and lowering the blade with the spring here. And then this one is just another little gusset that sort of ties it all together. So let's get those pieces made. All right, so welding's all done on the top blade. We've got welds going on our gusset on one side. We've got these welds done. We've got that back weld just where that bend line was. And then underneath, we've got this one burned up and the back side of our bend. That will be plenty strong enough for what we're asking it to do. And now we're going to be moving on to the part that this bolts down to, which is our next our next angle iron piece. This is our 4x6, 3/8 thick angle iron that is 40 inches long. And basically what's going to happen with that is it is going to be the base for our bender. That's where we're going to have to drill some holes, and that's where our spring is going to be. We're also going to put a adjuster, like a blade adjuster on it. That's this little guy right here that will be able to push against here to allow it to bend different thicknesses. That's the purpose of that. So these are the blade adjuster tabs. We'll be needing those with a couple of our raw 3/8 nuts that will be welded on there. These are the adjuster bolts. These all come in the kit. Then we also have these pieces, which are going to be welded nuts underneath that 4x6 piece. And these bolts will be our spring-loaded blade bolts. So we're going to bring those to the table and use those up next. Now keep in mind the 4-inch section of this 6x4 angle iron, this is the front. Okay, the open edge is the back. We'll bring our blade over here. And set that right up by the edge. And then what we're going to do is drill hole right here on each one of these, and that is going to be our spring-loaded lifter. Okay, so I've measured the distance from here to the center of the hole, from the edge to the center of the hole, and what we've got is 2 3/8 from the edge and 3/4 of an inch from the side. That's where that hole is going to be for me. So I'm oversizing these a little bit. I've just got a slightly larger drill bit than 1/2 inch. You could also just use a stone or a carbide on a die grinder and just make this hole a little bit larger than 1/2 inch so that you have a little bit of play in there. Okay, now we've got those drilled out. The next step is gonna be cutting relief in the corners for our hinges. As you can see here, these are the hinges that will attach this 4x6 angle to our bending plate. And so that angle that we're working on, we just drilled these holes for, we're gonna have to make these little notches. So I'm gonna do that as well and weld up our adjusters. So because our hinge pieces are 1.25" outside diameter DOM tubing, we need at least 5/8 of an inch plus just a little bit so that they can pass each other and slide by each other. So I'm gonna set my combination square to 5/8 of an inch, and I'm gonna mark 5/8 of an inch by 2 inches long on each end. All right, so these pieces can just be evenly spaced on the backside. We can leave, I mean, the gaps are not really critical, I would say, but I can measure it for you. It's about 1.75" from the outside here, or 1.5 inches. What is it, 1.5 inches? Yeah, 1.5 inches from the outside. That gives, a bit of space on the either side of this tab. It's not gonna twist on us. So those two end pieces, and then just put these ones evenly spaced in here. Make sure they're all square so that your square tube slides through nice and easy, and weld them in there nice and solid. All right, so I finished welding this up. I'm just stitching it a couple inches, couple times. I believe that that is plenty. I just did one side. I don't want to over weld this again. Also, just because if you weld, crazy hot and like a whole bunch, it might end up warping your piece of metal, right? So we are doing as much as we need, and that's as much as we need, right? So that's that. Those are welded on. Next step is going to get this brake blade on there. That is the hinged piece that we'll be lifting up. We're gonna do these hinges next. And as you can see, we will have to notch the same here. I believe that was 5/8 of an inch by 2 inches. We'll notch that out of our 4-inch piece of 1/2-inch flat bar. That is the bender. Okay, let's get on to our tube roller, pipe roller situation. That's next. All right, here are our plates. This is the Gene Winfield style pipe roller. We have our 8-inch Sked 40 plate ends, and then these ones are for our 2-inch and our 4-inch. I'll show you how to throw that together right now. This one's pretty quick, pretty easy. It involves welding a bunch of nuts on these. Basically, all these raw nuts will be welded on all the way around, these 12 here, and then we'll have a couple in the center of these. We'll have a couple in the center of all of those. And then it just assembles. It assembles into the glorious pipe roller that it is. So I'm gonna burn through this one. Let's get it done. These are all welded up, and the beauty of this, I probably don't even need to explain this, but basically the holes on this one are a little bit smaller than the holes on these, and the reason being is so that when this goes on the outside and you line up the center bolt, no matter how kind of potentially, you know, off any of these lower ones are, they will always line up. So like if you put one on here Like you'll always get another one here, and so on and so forth. So we supply like 4 bolts per side in the kit. Like that's probably even more than you need. You know, 2 or 3 just to align it when you're indexing your pipes, all you really need. But we throw 8 bolts in the kit so you can have 4 a side. Next up is we've got to actually weld these onto our piece of pipe. So this is our 8-inch Sked 40 pipe. These are meant so that they can go on and you get like a nice outside corner type weld on there. Now don't go ahead and just weld both sides on all of a sudden, because we're gonna have to index those so that when you swivel it, the bolts line up on both sides, right? So we'll weld one side on or tack it on. We'll bolt these plates on one side, and then we'll just make sure that this is touching the same flatness on both sides so that the bolt holes line up. You'll see what I mean? Let's get into it. Let's weld up our pipes right now. All right, next step is we want to center this the same way. We want to make sure that our 4-inch piece is centered in that teardrop. And as long as you've got an even space all the way around, you're good, both sides, and we'll have the perfect amount of space in here so that we can slip our piece in to bend our rolls. So I'm just using whatever I've got around, scrap chunks of metal, to help me center it up. I'll tack it all into place. And basically, when you see the size list, this piece is 3/8 of an inch longer than this piece. And then our next piece, our final piece, our 2-inch, will be 3/8 longer than this one. That leaves enough gap so that these aren't super, super tight. They'll have a little bit of room so that when you loosen off the bolts, it'll be able to slip and move easily. Okay, here it is. This pipe roller is done. This basically is what most of you want, apparently. We got lots of messages about this when we did our first V1 of this whole kit. I just want the plates to make this pipe roller, because everybody always needs this kind of a forming tool in their shop for doing, like I said before, transmission tunnels, rocker panels, like any of that kind of stuff. You want something that's, versatile to make different 2-dimensional rolls in sheet metal. So the nice thing about it, it's got the perfect size slot. It works with tubing that you can get or pipe that you can get. This is Sked 40 pipe. This is 8-inch, 4-inch, and 2-inch Sked 40 pipe. It's very simple. It's the 3 plates on each end with a bunch of hardware. It's going to be very inexpensive on our site. So this is something that I feel like everybody can afford, everybody can make. And you can make your own stand for this. You don't have to do our cool little flipping stand like I'm about to build next. But yeah, here it is. And the way it all goes together, these pieces are really easy to index, right? We can index these at, 12 different points, 30 degrees, so that you could have just the little one on the top or the medium one off the side. Like, you can kind of do it whatever way you want, or you can put them both all the way down to get them out of the way to do like a nice slow bend with the big pipe. That was kind of the whole purpose of this. Of course, you get all the hardware, you get everything you need to put it together, and we can just easily locate our holes, lock it into wherever you want. So the next thing I'm gonna do is build our stand. The idea of the stand is that it's gonna save a ton of space for you guys, because if you want this and the brake, they flip. Let's go show you the stand real quick. This is the stand that houses both of those tools we just built, and we kind of made it so that it's weighted properly so that you can just flip it, and now you've got the roller, right? Lock it into place, use the roller, whatever. The other part of this tool that we are gonna build as well is our bearing roller tool for the pipe, but there's no sense building that until we've got the stand. So we'll build the stand next, make it do its flipping deal, and then we'll finally build the add-on piece, which, I mean, you can get them all together in a kit, like all the pieces all together all at once, or you can buy them individually, whatever you like. But the roller will help you bend nice and evenly on sheet metal for like longer pieces, and it kind of pivots off the centers of all these different pipes, uses a ball bearing roller on a big tube, which I showed you guys earlier. So this right here is the stand kit. Okay, so if you order it on the site, this is what you're gonna get. These are the caster plates that work with very common casters you can get on Amazon that are inexpensive. They're the ones right on there. They're a heavy duty 3-inch caster, and they come with the hardware to bolt the casters on. So the plates are supplied. These are the top caps for the A-frame, which our locking tab welds onto. This is the pivot that allows it to flip. You get a nice weld on your 2x2 tubing right there. These are the pivot, like the actual pivot bearings, basically. I don't know if you call them a pivot bearing, but they are going to be welding onto our A-frame. That's how it's going to flip up and down. That's the hinge. We've got weld-on nuts. We've got the hardware to lock it in, and there it is. So this is what you would get in the mail, and then you'd buy your own 2x2 tubing, because you can get that anywhere, right? So let's build it. Now we got these pieces all mitered. They're 60-degree miters, every single one of them. These ones are parallel miters on your 24 and a quarter inch pieces, and the 13-inch pieces are opposite miters, like trapezoid style, right? So what I've got for a measurement on mine, we've got 10 inches to base for that 13-inch piece, and then The measurement across the bottom is about 30 5/8. So as long as you're close to that, you're gonna be fine. The top cap piece is one of our pre-cut plasma pieces, but like at this point, I'm just gonna lightly tack it together, get both A-frames lightly tacked together, and then we'll move on from there. Okay, basic part of the frame, it's done. We're gonna move this out of the way for now. The next step is going to be getting our brake and our roller connected. So that 37-inch piece that I was talking about that we already installed in there, we're gonna use our two 15-inch pieces to weld to that 37-inch piece that's inside the brake, and it's also gonna weld to the bottom of the large tube in the center of our pipe roller. Okay, so right now to the center of the roller, I've got 4 5/16. Right now to the center of our brake, I've got more. I've got 4 what would you call that? 4 3/4. So I've got to raise by just shy of 1/2 inch. I got to raise this up. So what I'm going to do is just space it out with a couple of pieces of anything. And then we've got our pieces of tubing here. This is going to be our distance. So we're actually going to have to move this whole shebang back. Now the width of these two pieces, if you're doing a 42-inch wide stand like us, and by the way, all this stuff, if you wanted to make your brake narrower or wider, you would just have to modify the width measurements accordingly. So to have a true 36-inch main, you'll end up with that 36 3/8 4-inch piece, 36 3/4 2-inch piece, to have the full 36-inch wide main. And that dictates a 42-inch wide stand. So these pieces that are 15 inches long, we are going to space those outside measurement to outside measurement 34 3/8. That gives us just a little bit of play in between our stand and our swivel pieces so that it's not super, super tight. So 34 3/8 on these pieces. We're just going to set that up now and get those tacked on and welded into place, and then we'll build off of that. Okay, next thing we got to do is install the hinge. We're almost done. So we got these top plates. These are going to cap off our tubing here. I'm going to weld these on real quick, and that'll allow us to clamp on the hinge DOM piece underneath, and we can put that onto our frame. Okay, I'm going to start with that one. I'll fish that one out after. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is I'm tacking these into place. These are our hinge pieces, the DOM tube, 1.25" OD, 3/4 ID. We've got these pins that slide through. This is gonna be our actual pivot, and that's gonna go right in the center hole there. So I'm just gonna clamp these on, throw a couple tacks on them. We're gonna stick the frame onto the actual piece and then weld those hinges in, and it'll be like a one piece, doesn't come apart kind of thing. All right, here's a pin for you. You're just gonna slip this over and slide the pin in. So right now I'm gonna weld the pins about 1/2 inch inside there. I think we will probably want to use as many friends as you need, or we have a forklift, so we're gonna save our backs. By the wonders of movie magic, we put the casters on. There's the update. We gotta put these locks on. So I should have probably, it would have been easier if I put these nuts on first, but you can do that when you put it together. Now we can assemble the top. These are our 1/2 inch bolts. And these little captivated nuts. So now it like lifts up nice and high. You can get your pieces in and out. That's how you clamp down onto your sheet metal. Really easy. And then for when this flips around so that this doesn't get floppy, we've supplied just this little pin. Not sure what kind of pin you call that, but we supply it so that you can just drill a hole straight through both these pieces and pin it right there. These arms come off, they flip onto there. We can bend the pin because we forgot that I put it in there. We'll flip it around. Keep in mind, right now this side is heavier than the other side because we don't have the rest of it assembled. Like, this is the beauty of this setup, right? Put these wherever you want them, right? You could have this up top, you can have this at the bottom, have them like this. The classic Gene Winfield one, I think, is kind of set up more like that. So they're indexable. Put them wherever you want them. All right, so this is the add-on roller, and what it is it's basically like a handle that you can pull around your sheet metal. This is on a bearing. This is like a 2-inch piece of tubing here, and each hole here will allow you to bolt into the center of each of these tubes. And then you'll be able to just pull a piece of sheet metal all the way around. Say if I was gonna do like a very wide piece of sheet metal and I wanted it to be supported all the way along as I tried to roll it, that's what I would use the roller for. So that's an add-on that you guys can choose to or not choose to have. Like, the master kit will have all these things all at once. You'll have every piece for the stand, you'll have every piece for the roller, you'll have every piece for this add-on roller, and every piece for the brake. But there are 4 separate pieces here if you would like to do them individually. Not everybody needs a brake. Some people already have a brake. So if you just want the roller and make your own stand, that's much, much cheaper. So we've got that available on the website that way, and vice versa. So if you want this extra little roller, it's on there. And yeah, so let's grab a couple pieces of metal and play with the roller a little bit, and then that'll be the video. All right, so if you want to make yourself a large roll, just slip it in here, bend it right around. You get a nice smooth radius. You could kind of get any radius you want by just slowly pushing it on there. You want to have something a little bit tighter. We've got the 2-inch on this side. You always want to bend and support close to where it's actually happening when you're using it, if you're trying to get that exact radius, but gives you a nice smooth bend. If you want to, you know, go in between sizes, you can do that, but you just kind of massage it, you know, as you go. And you can get an in-between size. It's like kind of infinite that way. If you want to get something on the 4-inch, you know, it's super handy for like building custom cars or anything that you can think of, like to be able to roll material like that. I've personally owned a roller, like a 3-wheel roller that's adjustable, that's even powered. And I don't really use it, to be honest. To be totally honest, I just sold mine like yesterday. And the reason being is that it's been sitting collecting dust in the shop, and it's a 36-inch roller just like this one. But I find it just so much easier to just come right into this thing and give it a little bend, you know, transmission tunnels, you know, or sorry, drive shaft tunnels, transmission tunnels, you name it, right? 2-dimensional curves. You know, bigger pieces. We've got a larger piece of 20 gauge here. Like it's, you just kind of use the leverage of the piece of material itself, and it'll give you a nice bend. So anyway, I super love this tool. I wish I had it a long, long time ago. And we are thinking of people that are trying to save space and save money when we're building tools like this. So Elio and I really enjoy making different machines and tools for you guys. So thanks everybody for watching. Make It Custom. I really appreciate each and every one of you. Go check out Life with the Pepperoni as well. He's got his own channel now. I'm gonna turn that over to him. What's up? He's building his Roadster and just picked up a cool little 36 Ford. So check that out at japhandskustoms.com if you want any of this stuff. And we are gonna be on the Zephyr next. Finally, I feel like, well, I'll give you guys a little quick view. We did a massive cleanup in the shop, a massive purge. We cleaned up just kind of everything this past week, and basically in preparation for ending the 31 Ford build and starting on the Zephyr build. So I'm really excited to get back on that. And there may be even some talks about potential caddy things in the future. Everybody, have a great day. Thank you all. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.